All right, everybody. I hope we've all had a great Thanksgiving weekend, even though it was like last Thursday. Coming to you live November 28th, 2021. And we're at the comic book room that is in construction. Hopefully, maybe today I will be able to get the shelves all stacked up appropriately and stuff. That makes for a great background, seeing all the books. And like I said, the new comic book room is sort of downstairs. Hey, John, what's going on, man? And like I said, the downstairs room for this comic book room is perfect because there's basically no heat in it. We have a space heater that I've shut the door on and stuff. That's why I'm all cozy looking and stuff. Dave McKenzie's out there. What's going on, guys? So over the last couple weeks, of course, work has been hectic because we get unfortunately, I got the kind of job, the more days off you get, the harder the job gets to get everything done. Hey, John Jones, what's going on? But I've been able to still kind of travel. We sort of had enough yesterday, decided we were just going to hit the road. And from about 8:30 till about 3 o'clock, we rode around. I hit a little flea market, hit Bristol, Tennessee, and just going to let you guys know that one of my main reasons for traveling yesterday was to get some comic book boxes to get some of this other stuff that I have now off the floor. And first we had the great comic book bag and board shortage, and now we have the great comic book box shortage. The person who ran this comic book shop, when I went there and asked him how he was on short boxes and stuff, he just started shaking his head. And pretty much the short and skinny of it is that somewhere over in Asia, there is a dock for some boats to ship some boards out and bring things to America, but they're not priority. They're not priority. They're not a priority. They're not considered important enough to go ahead and ship now. They're shipping other things. So it's not that there's a paper shortage or there's anything going on. It's just there's other things they feel are more important to ship out to America besides comic book boards. So if your shop's got them, buy them up. Okay. This one particular comic book dude does not get into the drama. He doesn't tend to exaggerate. And he steered me right on the comic book bags, on the comic book bags. All right. So what I have here is a combination of a few Ollie trips. It was a light month. And then, of course, yesterday I hit the flea market and I hit a few other places here and there. I'm not really it's going to be it's going to be one of those Howler Mouse videos where I'm going to be showing you the books I got and see what comes into my head because I haven't really gone through them yet or anything. I sort of bought them, put them up, and went through it. So we already got some people there. Now, one of the things that is cracking me up, as always, okay, what's going to start out is there's some Quasar hot issues out there now. Quasar had been around for a while, since the 70s, second Marvel boy and that kind of things. Mark Grunwald came on, and around 1990, they had a wave of number ones come out, right? You had Spider-Man #1 by McFarlane, She-Hulk #1, by John Byrne, Ghost Rider #1, a new Ghost Rider, Danny Ketch and stuff had come out. Who was that? Larry Hama, Mark Texeira. Was it Hama writing that? I don't know, man. And 2-3 other books had come out with some #1s. I have a Marvel Age Namor #1. It was a little bit of a nice way to start the 90s with a whole bunch of 91 Marvel titles and stuff, right? And Quasar was one of those books, and I was right on board. I was a Mark Grunwald fan, still am. And I've sort of been piecing this together. I probably followed the book on the newsstand while it was still here up to around issue, I don't know, 20s, issue 20, because what happened, and this is going by memory, at least what I saw on the newsstand. I'm not omniscient, who knows, you know what I mean? But basically what happened is that in the teens, it was Paul Ryan and Mark Grunwald doing this Quasar book. He had an office for his secret identity in the Baxter building. All right. And the Fantastic Four didn't know he was there and stuff. Right. And they started out doing sort of this tongue-in-cheek Superman deal where he had a secret identity, much like a Clark Kent type. And they even played around with his outfit, and it was tongue-in-cheek. But then around the teens, all right, he started bringing in these B, C, D list characters and stuff, right, into the book. And that's always great when they do that because they can do things. Those characters aren't hot commodities, so you can change things and have things happen that wouldn't happen in a mainstream book, with Batman and your Supermans and your Captain Americas and your Thors. You can't mess with those characters too much. But he did this, I think it was called a Journey into Mystery arc in the teens, right? And every issue, I don't remember if it was bi-weekly or not, but every issue had a hot artist doing a cover. You had a Jim Lee cover, Mike Mignola cover, then you had the Todd McFarlane cover. And that Todd McFarlane cover apparently is a hot book right now. Oh, this is fantastic. Good morning, Tim. Glad you survived Thanksgiving. Here to listen to a 9.8 slap talk, first appearances, Marvel films and TV shows, speculation and investment, and booster gold goodness. Well, out of all, I love when gore pops up. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm not on YouTube that much. I've kept from doing a live stream where I talk about all this, right? And the whole theme of that talk that I'm avoiding is the fact that Milli Vanilli made it all the way to a Grammy. And that's how I feel like a lot of the bigger channels are on YouTube right now with the very talk you're talking about. So I'm sad to say that a Booster Gold talk will occur in this. But real quick, yeah, just give you a heads up. Okay. Gray man's here. Okay. So anyway, they had this great journey into mystery. And the book sort of, I wouldn't say it didn't become hot, but all of a sudden it was disappearing from the newsstands. And then Greg Capullo came up there. So probably from around issue 16 up, I've had to back up and sort of piece them as I come across. And Mark Grunwald pulled through everything in there. It's a fantastic book. It was his attempt of sort of trying to be a Jim Starlin, but still being Mark Grunwald. You know, we got to understand Mark Grunwald was the encyclopedia of Marvel. He was the continuity king. So he brought in all these cosmic characters you've never heard of. But then the people in the know, pre-internet, not reported in any magazine or anything like that, the people who knew, this is like 1990. Now, I'm going to be picking this book whenever I already have it, but I found an extra one and I already picked it up because there was a cosmic race going on in issue 17, right? So he pulled in a whole bunch of characters here from the Marvel Universe that were speedsters, okay? And as you can see there's the Wizard. He brought in his Squadron Supreme. Now, if you followed the Squadron Supreme 12-issue maxi series in the 80s, you knew it was his take on the Justice League and this fantastic story about what happens when you abandon the Constitution in America, basically, and you let the heroes become active. Very influential book, okay, on Kingdom Come, The Authority. It's all been said and stuff, right? Well, he came out with a graphic novel, which was their version of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and their universe was more or less destroyed, and they came over there, and they ended up being in the Quasar book off and on, right? So you have in the yellow there a Wizard, but what a lot of people don't know about the Speed Demon is that he was a part of the Squadron Sinister. He was the first evil Marvel Flash, if you will, based off the character, and he abandoned his Wizard outfit and became the Speed Demon. So not only do you have the Speed Demon, who is secretly a Flash character archetype, if you will, for Marvel running around, but you also had Nighthawk running around, who was actually a Batman archetype from another universe. Okay, just letting you know. But anyway, he brought them all in. But what's amazing about this is that there was a mystery character, and his name was Buried Alien. He couldn't remember anything. He was in red, tattered clothes. He had long blonde hair, grown a beard, and yellow boots. And he couldn't remember anything, and he was fast. So basically what happened was that Mark Grunwald, with a tongue-in-cheek, pulled in Barry Allen into the Marvel Universe after his fiasco in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So this book actually became sort of hot for the people in the know, you know, actual people who read their comics and loved stuff like that, right? Around issue, I think this title may have ended around issue 60. Don't take my word on it. I'm shooting from the hip. And he pops back up in issue 58. And I've never been able to find issue 58. All right. So, yeah, I got a few fill-in issues of Quasar. And, of course, we had the Imperial Guard during this big Avengers crossover years later in 1992, Operation Galactic Storm. And it was very interesting because Quasar returned to the newsstand, as I understand it, and they took 3 issues, 33, 34, and 35 maybe, but when they put them on the newsstand, they numbered them 1, 2, and 3 as they crossed over with Galactic Storm. So I always assumed that Quasar was taken off the newsstand. That's why I couldn't find it. Greg Capullo came on, and I loved how he brought the Imperial Guard. If you know the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, you know they were a tongue-in-cheek version of the Legion of Superheroes in the X-Men, due to Dave Cockrum working on the Legion of Superheroes before he came over. Timberwolf, Nightcrawler, Storm all have ties to the Legion of Superheroes. Okay, so they bring them in, and he introduces some new characters. That is like Matter Eater Lad, Dawn Star. He added new characters to the Imperial Guard to flesh out the the parallel, if you will, to the Legion of Superheroes, and I'm a Legion of Superheroes in that. And then in the issue before this, issue 31, or not before this, but issue 31, they broke the new universe had already been canceled and everything. So they had an issue where Quasar ends up going to the new universe, meets DP7, gets the Star Brand, because in the real world, his Quasar bands wouldn't work, and he was trapped on that Earth. And he talked to one of these characters who had owned the Star Brand. The Star Brand has infinite power, and when you give up the Star Brand, you have 10% of infinity. Well, 10% of infinity is still infinity if I know basic math. I mean, who knows, But anyway, he gets the Star Brand. He's able to use the Star Brand energy to return to Marvel Universe, number 616, if you will. But if you read DP7, the antibody had snuck into his cape there and was in the Marvel Universe. So we had the Star Brand ties to DP7. We had the Squadron Supreme in there. It's just a great freaking book, and all these little characters in there. Now, what's very cool is if you look real close to this, Quasar had lost his bands, and he actually has the Star Brand over his eye, and that's where he's getting his power. I flipped through this, and he was like, I feel like I better hurry and figure something out, because I feel like the Star Brand is going to run out of power one day. Who knows? And there was a whole mini crossover event called Star Blast of people fighting over the Star Brand. So yeah, this is what was so cool about Quasar, is that he would take the lemons and make this fantastic lemonade. Just fantastic. Made me feel like I came out of the mountains and went into the proper South. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And we got all kinds of people here. Yeah. Gray Man is right here on it. He's probably one of those people that was in the know and still is in the know. Barry's the fastest in both universes. And weren't some costume designs he used originally meant for the Legion of Superheroes? Yeah, absolutely. Actual characters were meant for the Legion of Superheroes, and they ended up being in the X-Men. Okay, so let's put that aside. Getting through 52 books. Now, I found this at like, I don't like calling it a flea market, because like it's a permanent structure, and whoever owns this old converted, I don't know if it was a gas station or an old restaurant, but it's an old building, and it's down in a county in Virginia that's like right on the border of North Carolina. I was traveling for work, and I had found this, and I had to laugh. And I've probably shown this before. Now that I'm sitting here doing this, I think I've shown this, right? But I found they would give you this in the 70s and early 80s, and it actually has an issue number 18. But if you went to the big boy restaurants of Shoney's, if you will, little kids would get this little comic book that they could color in. It had crafts in it. It had little strips in. And this one cracked me up because it's 1978, and I have a pass to go see The Cheap Detective for free. And there's an advertisement for watch the Spider-Man television show on WCCB, a local television station from wherever this Shoney's came out. If you remember that Spider-Man, who's not apparently, I don't know why, if you're going to do Spider-Man Multiversity, the new movie that's coming out next month, and the rumor is we're going to have a ton of Spider-Man from other movies. Why would you not have the one from the 70s? You know what I'm saying? His costume was actually cool, even though, he had some funky boots there, So I thought that was fun to find. What we got here? We got all kinds of people popping in here. Have you read Legends of DC Universe series? I think more comics to be done like that. Yeah, DC, if he's talking about the same one I'm thinking of, Legends of the DC Universe was a bit of an anthology series, I guess. Each issue could be, each story arc could be a single issue of 2 issues, 3 issues. And it was different creative teams with different characters. And one of my favorite ones is a missing chapter from Crisis on Infinite Earths that Marv Wolfman did. Okay, so yeah, I've got quite a few of those, man. There was like some homages to Kirby in there with the New Gods and stuff. Some great stuff in there. Okay, and like I said, at the same place that I got the Shoney's comic book, I'm pretty sure I've already shown these. I didn't want it to be a wasted trip because I didn't find a whole lot, so I ended up picking up these. Superman 123 from 1997, a year before Superman would have turned 60 years old. And I absolutely hated this costume, right? This was a Dan Jurgens costume. Superman had messed with so many different villains and had so many different events happen that his powers, for some reason, changed to energy based. And he was a big blue bolt of energy. They ended up playing with the Superman blue, Superman red. And we got, for his 60th anniversary, we got the Superman proper back in the, red underwear costume with the cape. This really messed up some of Grant Morrison's Justice League book that was coming out with having to dress Superman like this. And what killed me is that Dan Jurgens was doing Justice League at the time, and he took the Martian Manhunter and turned him into Bloodwind, the big mystery of who is Bloodwind. And he basically had the same costume design. It was all white, with gems and a cape. And yeah. So yeah, I went ahead and got those because I was there. And I absolutely hate that probably took me out of Superman after being a diehard Superman guy for a while. Yeah. Okay, so then I got this. This is an epic collection. I think the next few things are from Ollie's, right? But this is the epic collection of Walt Simonson's run, Bob Harris and Walt Simonson's run on Avengers in the late 80s. This book actually ends with the Inferno, X-Men Inferno crossovers, right? But it was still the same great team. Roger Stern had been on there for years. That was my Avengers growing up. And then we come in here with, and this is titled Heavy Metal. Ralph Macchio. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Bob Harris. I don't know if I said that. Apparently it was Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid. Walt Simonson, John Buscema, Tom Palmer. Buscema and Palmer are one of my favorite teams of all time. Tom Palmer is possibly my favorite inker. I totally went fanboy when I met him a couple years ago at Baltimore Con. But this was an interesting era of the Avengers here. Simonson, I had all the issues. I mean, I hung in there with the Avengers, but Walt Simonson's run was really, it didn't feel like the Avengers. And he pulled in his Kang stuff that he'd been doing in other books, Fantastic Four. And it was actually the dismantling of the Avengers leading up to issue 300, with the last three issues being Inferno crossovers, to where they even had the butler Jarvis have like a solo story. You got to see that he lived with his mother, who watches wrestling and believes it's real. And of course, with the announcement of Kang in the Marvel movies, there's an issue of this that is super, that's a hot book right now. And for half a second, I sort of felt bad for selling this run. But I got it at Ollie's for $11.99. And it originally retailed for $40 and stuff, right? I love these epic collections. I could see me replacing my entire collection if they were all done like this. There's just a charm to them. Just a charm. Another thing I went ahead and picked up at the old Ollie's, and this book is wild old, is the first season of this. I think is perfect. Okay, I am the same age as these kids. All right, when this story takes place, it has the feel, the Dungeons and Dragons. And I didn't get on board with the show with watching the first two episodes. I got talked into going back and watching it again, and I realized that when the show opens, the four boys are playing a Dungeons and Dragons game. And if you listen to the game and the actions that they make, the very next scene where the boy gets kidnapped follows exactly what he just did in the D&D game. Now that's damn good writing, and that's how you pull me into the show. So I stand by that. The first season is perfect. I got opinions on the second and third season and stuff, right? But I got the behind the scenes Stranger Things Worlds Turned Upside Down book, which is, full of a little trivia and the people talking about where the influences came from for the show, the Stephen King, the D&D. If you were there in the early 80s, you pick up on everything. I actually knew that the show was going to be a classic, in my opinion, or at least for me, in that first season when, what am I going to call her, Natalie Portman, when Winona Ryder walks out to the woodshed to get the axe. There's a reason she gets an axe. She's going to bust into the wall, thinking her son's in the walls. You got to watch it. But when she was going over there, they were playing a Joy Division song. And I'm like, oh, this is from somebody who was there. That's all I could think. When they had a Joy Division song as part of the soundtrack, I'm like, this is legit. So pick that up, $5. And what I like is they make it look like an old library book. Even I took right here. It has a sticker. It says, "Don't freak. The book is supposed to look like this." So it's in this cellophane like they put on the libraries. It even has been marked fair, like it's a used book you're buying. It's all beat up and tattered, and it's supposed to look like that. This is supposed to be from 1983, apparently. So yeah, but I'm not a Stranger Things nut per se. The other seasons have things I really like, but that first season with the tone and that era of that year, it's dead on. Art Bikes and Comics, not Fillier's Quasar, but it's related to the Starbrand books. Yeah, I had to pick up a Starbrand #1 a while back since I collect #1 issues. Starbrand is a personal favorite of mine, but I don't push it on people. The first issues really felt a little bit autobiographical for Jim Shooter, who was writing it, as I got older. But when John Byrne came on and he had a dislike for Jim Shooter, they blew up Pittsburgh, which is his hometown. And then all of a sudden they made the new universe a whole new thing, a new tone and everything. But he went really sci-fi with it. Very Larry Niven is what I felt like it was, if you know that author and stuff, with what they were doing. The book stopped being about Ken O'Connell and it actually became about the Star brand itself. Different people started having the Star brand. Oh, look at this. Got some free posters, because if you go to a comic book shop and they have posters that are for advertisements and stuff, they're not supposed to resell them. So I got these for free. Now, I'm not a fan of Tom King. There's you're a Tom King fan, that's great, right? But I do collect Watchmen stuff. So I have 2 posters of Rorschach, and unfortunately, it's for that weird Tom King book. I have the first issue. I couldn't finish reading it. Yeah, I've ended up picking up 2 of those. And then I don't know if you like the saga books, but I picked up 2 of these. Not sure quite how they fit in here. When I picked these up, I thought it was going to be the first issue poster, and apparently it is this. So I don't follow Saga. I read probably the first 20 issues. Not for me. It was announced to be like the next Star Wars in comics. And when I read it, it felt like it was highly influenced by heavy metal from the 70s, is what I felt like, the late 70s. So if there's, so it's all good. Now we got to make sure I don't overshare on this next book and move forward here. Make sure we don't have these books fall. Okay, but I got another book from Ollie's, The Walking Dead book. Let me check everything here. Oh, thanks, guys. Looks like we're a bit on a delay for some of you guys, so I'm just going to kind of move forward here. Okay, so what we got here is another Ollie's book. This was $6 for a book that retailed, I think, for $35. And I think there might be 18 of these. Don't take my word on it, but I just picked up a random one, right? But it's The Walking Dead, okay? I got a lot of nice things to say about The Walking Dead. But it's a hardback. It's number 14. So, and this is well past issue 100. When The Walking Dead came out, yeah, I missed out getting the #1 issue. I knew that book was going to be huge, but I was collecting things like Mouse Guard. I was going through a divorce at the time, and I was real picky about what I was reading and stuff, right? So I knew it was going to be big, but I didn't know how big. No way to predict that, right? I read that, I saw the issue, I saw the first cover. I read the fact that it was going to be like a George Romero movie that keeps going. And Robert Kirkman, in my opinion, has a lot to be very proud of. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. I don't know. This will make sense in a minute, right? But I picked up The Walking Dead. I collected the trades. I've pretty much followed the book up to issue 100 with the introduction of Negan. Okay, Negan was actually the character that made me drop out of The Walking Dead. Now, by this time, I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure the show was already going on AMC. And I remember being in a comic book shop that's not there anymore in Mount Airy, North Carolina, because we all knew in issue 100 a major character was going to die. So I read it in the shop with all full intentions of buying it. I already had a stack of books, so the guy was leaving me alone. And I read it, and hearing the vulgarity that came out of Negan's mouth and seeing that sadistic, twisted side of him that he thought with an ounce of him thinking it was funny, we'd reached a point where The Walking Dead that was showing the classic theme of humanity, inhumanity towards humanity that can come out, if you get what I'm saying. Negan hit just a little. Negan was too real. Negan was too real. If I ever sit down with Kirkman, if I ever have him sign a book, if I ever see him anywhere, if I could sit down and just have a talk with him about where Negan came from, that would be an interesting conversation, I have a feeling, because he hit on something that was real. Even though that is where and like I said, I had somebody in my life who would get a CO2 cartridge BB pistol and would shoot my brother and I when I was 14 and 10 and laugh while he was doing it. I mean, he captured something very real with Negan that I recognized, even though I couldn't put my finger on it. So with the idea of the Walking Dead show taking off and finding out there was that this is where I started really realizing that a lot of people didn't have the same mindset that I did. I always wanted to know where things come from, what were their influences. I really just wanted to delve in and just fill that cup up and stuff. People didn't care. The Walking Dead TV fans had fans, the book had fans, and very rarely in my walkings I would find people who were both, either they were there from the beginning with Walking Dead or they picked up the books afterward. That's my comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? But I remember reading things where Robert Kirkman said he had 300 issues planned for The Walking Dead. And then around in the 180s, so you can correct me if you want, I read the last issue. And I missed a lot of everything from that last issue to issue 100 I didn't pick up on. So I picked this up just because it's sort of like right in the middle of where I left off on the book and it ended. And I think he made the right call after reading that last issue. It was a surprise. It came out of nowhere. I don't remember seeing any announcements for it until after it came out. So I read the last issue and I'm like, I don't know why he did it. I don't know the behind the scenes why he did it. I don't know what was his thoughts about doing it. But to me, the fact that we had a series that made you feel that it evoked emotions makes it a work of art. It's one of the probably best runs out there of any book, considering it was Robert Kirkman's. It was one person, two artists, I think, over the time. And I know there was lawsuits involved with Terry Moore, somebody, and who knows what was going on with the show. There was characters they wouldn't let him have, and I don't know if it just became a headache and he just wanted to go ahead and end the book. But the show was a success at the time. The book was a big hit, huge huge value on back issues and things. There was nothing left to prove. So when he did that last issue, and he did it in a way that the pacing was perfect, we got to know what the world was like at the end of this, how humanity had pulled out of that, how it was going to affect the way things were living and stuff. I think he accomplished everything he set out to do, in my opinion. And what was so funny is I did pick up an issue or two and kind of check it out after I did drop the book. I'm just remembering this. And I remember seeing Negan being held in like a little jail, like they'd kept him for years. And for some reason, it made me think that old Tex Avery cartoon. I don't know if Droopy was in it or not, but if there's a Tex Avery cartoon where they show you how the first jail came about with the cavemen or something, right? And at the end of it, they showed that little jail, little like Flintstone looking little hut made out of like, five flat rocks with little bars on the window. And they show like the caveman world, and then they dissolve into the modern world of the 50s, and it's surrounded by skyscrapers, and it's still there amongst all them. And the narrator says something like, had some kind of ironic little message to say. And then all of a sudden the prisoner is still there. The caveman prisoner is still there. Like, when y'all going to let me out? And that's what it felt like all of a sudden. So yeah, I wasn't really burning to jump back on The Walking Dead. So yeah, this is a cool little thing that brings up some good conversation when we're talking comics. Now, this right here, a lot of people did not like this, and I don't know if I did an actual review, but I remember talking about it on YouTube. But I did The Dark Knight Returns, The Last Crusade, Dark Knight Returns, The Master Race. I have the box set over there and stuff, right? I bought the actual comic, but Frank Miller had returned. Brian Azzarello was helping in some way, and I think Adam Kubert was doing the artwork, but it was the third part of The Dark Knight Returns. And I felt like it was a very safe book. I felt like Azzarello was either doing most of the writing or he was there to rein in Frank Miller. But he came out with this one shot that's supposed to be a prequel to everything, The Dark Knight Returns, and John Romita Jr. was on there. Now, a lot of people may not like John Romita Jr.'s art, but he was a second generation Marvel artist there for decades, and then he jumped ship and went to DC for a while. And I feel like they totally wasted him, right? So he comes out with this one shot. It's the return of Frank Miller and John Romita Jr. together. Now, if you know anything about his Daredevil stuff, both of their Daredevil stuff, this should have been an event. This book should have been hot, but it sort of fell flat. But I found it at Ollie's for $4 with extra sketch stuff and everything. And I'm just sort of a completist when it comes to that Dark Knight Returns world. Okay, that Frank Miller world. Heck, I'm even willing to give All-Star Batman and Robin a chance again. What we got here? Okay, we got people hanging in there. I got a Saga poster for a friend of mine before I told her it was for her. I sent her a picture with some darts. She knows I don't like the series. It fell flat in my opinion. It really got on my nerves, but I've run across so many people that like it. I got the trades, but stopped picking up a long time ago. Yeah, yeah. Now, I remember when these books for DC and Marvel started coming out. And I run across more of the Marvel ones, but there was like facsimile editions. They come out periodically. I'm even told that the Werewolf by Night number 32, first appearance of Moon Knight, the facsimile edition. A facsimile edition is where it's the complete comic, exactly how it was back when it came out, advertisements, letter pages, and everything. Then you got these little True Believer books where it's just the nuts and bolts, the bare necessity. It's the actual comic, but the advertisements are modern and it's not a faithful, complete reprint of the entire book. These are $1. Those facsimile editions, around, I don't know, $4 or $5 or something. I don't know. But I've been cracking up because the Werewolf by Night, number 1, YouTube and online comic book collecting is such a little bubble that I'm finding, with my time off YouTube here and kind of talking to a few people who aren't into this online stuff, it doesn't really transfer as much as you would think. You get caught up in an online hype. So that's why I'm real careful about, oh, this is hot now. But the facsimile edition of Werewolf by Night, number 32, and I have it here somewhere, apparently is now a hot book. It's actually gone up in value, treating it like a reprint, I guess. Basically is what it is, but it's got a different title. Werewolf by Night number 32 was a book I had in my original collection that I got off the stepdad, and I would toss that thing. Was beat up to begin with, and the book just got on my nerves because when I'd be going through stacks of books, it would keep popping up and I would actually frisbee it across the room and stuff. I sold it for I think $180 or something about 10 years ago. Now a mint copy is worth $1,200 raw, and I'm like, holy crap, but anyway, but I had to pick these up, even though I could probably still get them for $1 in the comic book shops. But this is Fantastic Four 175 by Roy Thomas, John Buscema. And the High Evolutionary is one of my favorite Kirby characters ever. I mean, it goes Thing, High Evolutionary when it comes to Marvel and stuff. And this book is one that I still have the beat up copy. But I remember reading this out of the stepdad's collection. But I never knew what Fantastic Four issue it was. And for some reason, I thought Marv Wolfman wrote it because the first 2 pages, first it was a coverless comic. And this is in 1978. Okay, you know what I mean? The book was not that old, but it had no cover to it, and the first page was ripped out. So my story would start right there with the High Evolutionary staring down Galactus. And I thought this was fantastic because it spends a page catching the reader up. It's this big epic battle with Galactus. I mean, this was good stuff for a 5-year-old, especially when the Fantastic Four was also on Saturday morning at the time, minus the Human Torch, and stuff like that. So this is one of the introductory books, I guess, of that year for the Fantastic Four for me and stuff, right? We had tons. The stepdad and uncle had tons of the Kirby Fantastic Four. I probably read those, but this is probably one of the first modern Fantastic Four stories I read, and it was incomplete. So I don't know if I've recovered this or not. I need to get the original and stuff, right? Then I have a beat up copy of this one, Fantastic Four versus the Hulk. This is a True Believer one. I bought it as a joke because it is tore up. It is worth a little bit of money, the actual book, and I was going to frame it as a joke and stuff. So now I have one I can read. And this one, Gil Kane, Steve Gerber. If it's still Steve Gerber, I want to get it. But the Thing versus the Man Thing. If you're a Gerber fan, Bronze Age Marvel fan, Bronze Age is my favorite era of comics. Even though I can talk all day long about as I grew up in the 80s, with the books for me and stuff like that. But when you go back and you sit down, I just get a more fulfilling reading a lot of Bronze Age comics. If it's DC Comics, stay away from the heroes. They put out a bunch of stuff, and superhero stuff, not that good. I'm sure there's some gems here and there. Anything else they put out was actually really good. Blows my mind. Mastodon Comics is here. What is this? I'm currently at work, but customers aren't complaining, so I'm playing hooky. You play hooky there. I actually went to work this morning and left. I'm going to work from home tonight. Hey, hola, Paolo. Tim mentioned Saga. I say Saga and he appears. Oh, man. All right. We got some people here. Nice. Okay, so when it comes to collecting comics, I always say that variety makes a great and I'm not the only one to say it, but a variety makes a great collection. Even if you take a chance on something and don't like it, or there's these little things that you collect that you feel like only you collect, and that's fine. But it's no secret I'm a huge Legion of Superheroes fans, right? And this is a beat up book that I got for $1. Okay, it's from 1967. Adventure Comics featuring Superboy in the Legion of Superheroes. That's not true. I'll tell you why in a minute here. But it's number 355. Maybe it had a backup story that I skipped over and stuff. All right. But there were certain stories about the Legion that I don't think they've ever really collected as one. Now, if you get the Legion of Superheroes number 300 from 1983, that's different stories. It's showing Legion of Superheroes from different timelines, different universes. You just got to read the story. But there was these stories of the adult Legion of Superheroes, and it cracks me up how they draw them. They have the exact same, Legion has the exact same costumes, but they give them wrinkles and receding hairlines. Instead of Cosmic Boy, it's Cosmic Man. Stuff like that, right? They get rid of the lad and lasses and make them men and women. And they have the exact same costumes. They've got double chins, receding hairlines. Like, they aged the Legion a whole lot for these stories. But I'm a huge Legion of Super Villains fan. I mean, I just eat this Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age Legion stuff up. I love this stuff. Like I said, one of my first comic that I bought with my money was a Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes book that I still have here somewhere. I've shown it before. Now, in the 90s came this writer who I feel like he's never really had his due. Who knows how these things work out. But after reading his Airboy miniseries that he did, I really don't want to ever read something like that again by this writer, because I don't want to tarnish his great works. I mean, we all take a chance, I guess, to keep it fresh or whatever. I'm not going to be harsh or anything like that. But anyway, James Robinson came out of nowhere with me with Left Field, and he did the Golden Age. And this was an era of, like, it seems like everybody was trying to be an Alan Moore or a Grant Morrison and taking something and reinventing it and trying to make their mark. And when I read the Golden Age, where we have All-Star Squadron, Justice Society, adapting to the world after World War II, the things he did in there was a love letter. Now, I've actually seen Roy Thomas talk about the Golden Age and what James Robinson did with, and what Jeff Johns, David Goyer, and James Robinson also did with the JSA book that came out in 1999. I've seen him speak about it at Heroes Con and stuff, and he did not agree at all with what had been done with a lot of those characters. Okay, what can you say? But James Robinson came out and he did this fantastic Golden Age books that has the #1 fight in it, in my opinion, that Paul Smith was able to coordinate. To me, if you want to show somebody how to do a fight in comic books, you get Captain America Kirby and from late 60s, and you get this Paul Smith Golden Age #4. Those are the books that I'm like, this is how you do a fight in comics. But he ended up doing Starman, and he writes very personal. He gets very personal with these characters, it feels like, you know what I mean? And when he gets into the fights and the superheroics, he actually writes in a way where it's almost symbolic of SEX, if you will, in a way, with the afterglow after a fight and stuff, man. Very artistic with what he does and stuff, right? But in the middle of this, he took a chance with the Vigilante, the Golden Age Vigilante, the guy that wears a white cowboy hat, red bandana mask, and he rides one of the coolest freaking motorcycles I've ever seen. If I could there's 3 things I would take out of comics and put in the real world if I could own them: the Vigilante's motorcycle, the Knights of Wendigore flying steeds, okay, if you know what I'm talking about, and a shield car from the 60s that Jim Starlin designed. Those are the 3 things I'd want. I want to say one of the Batmobiles, but I got to be honest with myself. I don't want to be too much of a spectacle, So, but he did this 4-issue miniseries where we get a superhero cowboy story. I recognize him from Seven Soldiers. I'm trying to think. I was amazed when they had the Seven Soldiers, any of the characters in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon and stuff, and things like that. He had an action figure, but it just really blows my mind how this character has held on. I think I have an old Secret Origins from the 70s with him in it. I've got some trades. a few things with him in it. So I'm going to be real curious to see what James Robinson does with this. I think this is from the 90s. It was 4 issues. It was also an Ollie's buy for $4. I'm like, I keep running across this. Let's see what I'm curious. All right. Hey, what's up? We got all kinds of people coming in here. What we got here? Gore Vidal. It's great to read Legion of Superheroes or Green Lantern with music from Doctor Who episodes, especially when our heroes are in dire straits. It's always, the Doctor Who theme is one of my top 3 favorite songs of all time. Forget that it's a TV theme. But there's a guy on here on YouTube, probably about somewhere in the last 10 years. He did Doctor Who versus Metal, and he gets his guitar and he does this fantastic orchestrated Doctor Who theme with his guitars and stuff. It's very inspirational, and he smiles the whole time he's playing it. Doctor Who versus Metal. Check it out. Hopefully it's still up. I don't even know if that guy's channel is still up. So I was going to pull out all 3 of these, but I have the first 3 issues now. For some reason, I didn't order number 2. I did pay $5 for this right off the stands. I get them 35% off when I pre-order them. For some reason, I didn't get number 2. But this is Batman 89. This is a continuation of Tim Burton's Batman for the 1989 movie. I haven't read the first. There's 3 issues out. It is a miniseries. They got Sam Hamm, who wrote the original movie, to come in and write this. So I don't know if it's leftover scripts, notes, or whatever, but it has fantastic art. I flipped through them. I'm going to be reading them when they are all out in one setting. I'm assuming, since it says Batman 89, this takes place right after the movie, so we don't have to go into Batman Returns with Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer, Cat and a Bird, and Pee-wee and things like that. But anyway, I'm just flipping through this, seeing the advertisements. This movie came out when I was 16. It was one of the first things that felt like it validated comics. Not that I needed that, but it was really cool to be able to talk Batman with people. And then you realize there are people who they're not fans of comics and they really don't need to be talking about anything, in this hobby, But it was really cool to be able to have a normal conversation. It was one of the first normal conversations I could have about comics and stuff, right? What we got here? I know who you're talking about. He used all kinds of theme songs. There's a kick-ass version of the X-Men animated series theme. Yep. He's got tons of great stuff he did. Gosh, I wish, if you know his name, you can pop it in here. No biggie. Okay. Now, I actually paid for this book, right? When I say paid, I'm not talking about I steal comics and stuff, right? But anybody that's followed me for years on here, listen to my things, we get secondhand stuff, we get deals, we get lots, we do the hustle and stuff, right? But I saw this and I did not feel like hustling, right? So it's probably the 3rd or 4th book, back issue book that I just saw and I grabbed, and I'm just going to pay for it, right? Again, not going to blow anybody away unless you're really a fan of this stuff, but I talk about being a Superman fan. I am unapologetically a huge Silver Age Superman fan. Okay. I love those stories where they came in, and I know it diluted the character. I knew it led to problems later, but I don't care. But I am a sucker for a Silver Age Krypton story. Okay. I love the Thought Beast. I love the crystal. I love that Silver Age version of Krypton with its crystal force and things like that. And it's beast that they have, they act like it was like this savage land when they were in their dome-shaped, they had those domes over their buildings and stuff, right? All kinds of things. I mean, they had winged dragons running around. So I know target audiences were kids back in the day with the Superman and the Silver Age and stuff, and they were right. I read these in Superman Family. I read the reprints of Superman Family. I had coverless comics of this stuff. So I ended up getting Superman 232, which is a reprint of a whole bunch of Krypton stories. Okay. Legend of the Winged One. And I have Lois Lane stories where Lois Lane actually was on Krypton, and Jor-El had an eye for her and all kinds of things. Real weird stuff, right? I love this stuff. I love the stories of the Bottle City of Kandor with Nightwing and Flamebird. I love all that stuff, right? So when I see this stuff now, ironically, this is a giant sized Superman. That's one of the reasons I couldn't find it, is that I didn't. I'm finding out some of these giant sized Batmans and giant sized Supermans that I wanted from when I was a kid that were coverless and beat up and stuff. They weren't annuals or specials or anything. They actually were in the series. This is 232. Now, a little trivia for you folks is that issue 233, the next issue, is the I lost the word. The iconic cover by Neil Adams where Superman is breaking the chain off his chest, right? So right after that, you know. What we got here? Paolo seems, what's going on? Was saying the customers weren't complaining, and all of a sudden the complaint pops up. Still, it's a very quiet work Sunday. Wow. Yeah, Paolo. Don't get fired, dude. Yes, yes. Now, going back to that Bronze Age I was talking about, after I just said that Bronze Age is my favorite era, and I said pretty much anything that they do from the Bronze Age, as long as it doesn't have to do with superheroes at DC, it's fantastic. Well, I want to show you a little run here of a series that I get a kick out of, because I can't put my finger on what makes this book really cool, because it has its own atmosphere. I read this book and it's got this little X factor I can't put my finger on. And I don't brag about it. I don't try to push people to read it. I don't even ask if anybody else has read this series. But this thing had its own lone little aura. It's almost like it was meta. I can't figure it out. But now that I've got more of the run, there's only like 15 or 16 of these made. Now that I have a good chunk of the run here, to go with what I already have, I can maybe put my finger on it, right? But Freedom Fighters starts out on Earth X, where the Nazis won World War II. So we're in the 70s, man. And it's a bunch of quality comic characters. I think that's who it was. Human Bomb. And unashamedly, I found these characters in the All-Star Squadron. You know, I didn't know they were a thing. I didn't know they had their own book. Uncle Sam, the Ray. And I really want to get some of the gold. The Ray came out, that dude right there, the Ray, in yellow. People probably know the modern version because that's where Joe, it's one of the first, if not the first, Joe Quesada art was in a revamp of the character. But anyway, the Ray, I've read some reprints and stuff of him, and it had a very jazz feel. I mean, it was a little bit of a trippy comic from the Golden Age. And I'm always wondering if somebody's reprinted those books, but did a collection of them. But anyway, we have Uncle Sam, Phantom Lady, Black Condor, Human Bomb, Doll Man, and things. And let me tell you something, those Golden Age Doll Man books have some of the most sadistic covers I've ever seen. I will never forget seeing the cover to a Doll Man book from the 40s. Who knows? But anyway, it was a kitchen faucet, right? And they had tied Doll Man one arm to each of the faucet of the hot and cold knobs there, and he was drowning. They were wetboarding, drowning him, tying him up under a sink, drowning him with the faucet pouring over his head. I was like, oh my God. You know, I was like, who thinks of this stuff? Anyway, but the Freedom Fighters, and believe it or not, some of these books are a little pricey. Okay, I don't know why. I've never heard anybody talk about the Freedom Fighters, but they had some cool stuff. Here's Catman that pops up. Yeah, these are like six. Now, another reason I got this, I want to have to get a number 5 because it is a bit beat up, right? The rest of these look like they were printed yesterday. These are mint copies, no exaggeration, man. And I got them for I don't know, $5. I don't know, $5 for the whole thing. So anyway, we have like these fresh mint copies. I have number 1 and some scattered ones. A lot of people don't realize is that this book also had a secret crossover with The Invaders by Roy Thomas. Okay. You had America Man. They had a version of The Invaders in the DC book. America Mando was Captain America, things like that. And then over in Invaders, they had, oh my God, the Crusaders or something like that. Spirit of 76 and some of those characters and stuff, right? So there's a secret crossover between the Invaders and the Freedom Fighters. But like I said, this book has its own little atmosphere when you get in and read it. You know, now remember, you know, it's still a Bronze Age 70s book. Okay, so we're not talking, don't pick this up thinking you're getting some Alan Moore. All right. Okay. All right. Black Condor. Freedom Fighters are awesome. Yes. Paolo, the ongoing drama of his workplace now, can't afford to get fired. He bought comics a month ago. Doll Man, yep, absolutely. I dig him. But like I said, I found the Freedom Fighters in All-Star Squadron. One of the, Black Condor. Phantom Lady. Yeah, absolutely. Phantom Lady was in that. James Robinson took Phantom Lady. Sandra Knight was her name, and she tied him in to Starman because they had the same last name, Knight. So Phantom Lady is actually part of the Starman legacy now. Just a little thing out there. Not going to talk about this. This is 3 issues, but I got number 1. I grabbed this because it was there. I actually did think it was in a one-shot Elseworlds, but it is called Evil's Might, Green Lantern, Evil's Might, and it's Chaykin. It looks like it's Marshall Rogers also, I think. Don't know anything about this. I just saw Chaykin on it, and Howard Chaykin is going to be at a comic book show about 2.5 hours from me in February, so I'm definitely going to be going to that. Okay. And now we're going to knock out 6 books all at once. I bought these on a whim. Okay. I've ran across this number 1. Strangely, I've run across this number 1 issue 4 or 5 times over the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. Paolo, you said you have Evil's Might. You know, if you get a minute and you don't get fired and there's nobody complaining on you, let me know if it's worth tracking down before I waste my time. But this book is by Doug Moench and Paul Gulacy. All right. And if I'm not mistaken, now I had Shang-Chi books in the house. Okay. They were in the house. There is a huge run in the house as a kid, not mine, uncles or stepdads, who knows. Right. And the book just did not grab me, even though I loved Bruce Lee movies playing on Showtime around that time, way back. Right. So I didn't really get into the book, but wasn't Doug Moench and Paul Gulacy on the Shang-Chi books? But anyway, but this is a 6-issue miniseries that came out late 87 going into 88. Okay. My era in high school. Right. And I've run across this number 1. It caught my attention because I'm a huge fan of Garth Ennis's Hitman. Right. Dude wears black hair, sunglasses, shoots people up, green trench coat, a little bit of red in there. And the guy's his powers are telepathy and X-ray vision that he hardly ever uses. Right. And then somewhere along the line, I don't know if I was in a comic book talk or if I read an article or something, but they were talking about this book Slash Maraud. It's the same design. So it's Slash Maraud. I remember seeing advertisements for this in the 80s and other books, and I was not going to go near it, right? Now, check this out, okay? I flipped through some of the books when I bought this, right? I have all 6 issues, right? And this is so freaking 80s. If you love the 80s, if you were there, I say get this just for the aesthetics. I have not read it yet, but from what I can flip through and tell is that there's an alien invasion, all right? And we sort of have in the spirit of Commando and Delta Force and Cobra as things like that, a couple of these revolutionaries or something where they're fighting these aliens, and the aliens have nothing but round puffball heads. Look like Steve Gerber could have designed them, and they're shapeshifters. And we have the lady with the animal print, the big 80s hair, which is fantastically drawn, and it just gets crazy from there. If there was anything that was ever a time capsule for 1987 and 1988, it could very well be this book. We got a little Mad Max in there. We got monster trucks, a little dystopia. It's just, I read this book and it made me laugh and smile. I didn't read it, but as I was flipping through the book last night, it made me smile and laugh in all the best ways possible, even if it's not for the right reasons. Oh man. And that's their spaceships. The snowflakes are their spaceships, which I find ironic now, over 30 years later. So, Slash Maraud. That could be my new ironic, unintentional favorite book, just from what I've seen. Yeah, to get a feel good feeling. Now, Doug Moench is also responsible for a lot of work. He's one of those guys I really don't feel like he gets enough credit. Guy wrote comic books forever. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't until the 90s with Kelly Jones where they made the Red Rain vampire Batman stories. And those are considered classic Batman stories. Okay, I've had the trade. I don't know if I still have it. I've read them. Wasn't my cup of tea, but it's the thing where I read it and I'm like, I totally get why people love this. When it comes to Kelly Jones, his artwork, I loved him on Sandman, but some of his stuff gets way out there for me. And I think he's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I think he's fantastic, but I'm from that school of Bernie Wrightston, and that's one of his huge influences. You know what I'm saying? But Doug Munch was actually one of the guys that gave me the first clue that comic books may not be that lucrative to work in. Check this out. So late 80s, we get the QVC channel on cable. All right. And of course, my mother is the one that's watching QVC all the time. QVC is a shopping network. I don't even know if it's still around. Okay. So this is like brand spanking new. No one's seen anything like it. And I saw some crazy stuff on there. People would call in, they would actually talk to sellers who were buying a necklace, and they would claim they were still going to KILL themselves. And they're like, thank you, shopper. And they would move on. I saw some crazy stuff. And then one night on a Friday, of all places, Doug Munch is on there, and he's sitting there with the hostess of the QVC channel. And they're sitting there at, they have a little table between them. They're sitting there, and she's all dolled up with her 80s hair and her, jewelry and makeup and looking top notch for TV. And there's Doug Munch, hair parted in the middle. He's got the glasses that had they would turn into sunglasses with the tint. He had the tinted glasses, gray hoodie, and, beat up jeans. And I'm sort of like, what year is he in? This is like 88 or 89. And this dude looks like he stepped out of 1970, and I'm like, whoa. And he would talk, and they were promoting some DC comic stuff. And I'm like, dude, didn't even dress up for TV. And I've thought about that over the years. I was like, my first impression was, oh, wow, it's a bunch of, comics are really made by a bunch of hippies and stuff, right? Just, nonchalantly laughing about it. Nothing personal, you know what I'm saying? And then over the years, I go back to that with all the stuff that's come out from behind the scenes thanks to social media. I'm sort of like, wow, okay, yeah. I'm like, of course he's on there hustling his stuff. He needs the money. Don't we all? Don't we all at the end of the day? Evil's Might is a pretty good read. You can track down issue 2 and 3. It uses bits of New York history about Irish immigrants, suffragism, and union breaking into it. Okay, so it's a little political. Okay, I got you. Comic Crack is here. He's right on the Slash Maraud. Yeah, like I said, I don't know how much you saw me, but it was a nice surprise for something I reluctantly bought because all 6 were there. And that first issues, it's been popping up. I was getting it for the Hitman aesthetics to compare. Oh, you guys have done a Slash Maraud. I'm going to have to find that. You guys did a live stream. The 80s were definitely over. The people don't realize that in 1989, going into 90, it was kill the 80s. People who were there, at least for me, it was time to kill this. It was getting incestuous. I judged it by like the music. There's a band that came out called Danger Danger, and they had a song called Naughty Naughty, and then they had another song where they did it, and they were like the ultimate like hair band. They got hair as big as they could get it. You had another band called Pretty Boy Floyd coming out that was like third generation Poison with the makeup and the bigger hair, and they were like dressed like you would actually, their makeup, they even contoured their noses with makeup, like you would mistake them for women. So in their videos they would sit there and try to look tough. It wasn't cool. It was not cool. You were like, shoot the 80s. I thought Faith No More and Red Hot Chili Peppers were the two bands that were going to bring in the 90s as an era where I loved music. I noticed that it seems like it was always a band that would appear that would announce a new decade. And I was like, it's 1989, it's 1990, where's our band? And I see Faith No More, and I think this is it. And I'm like, oh wow, he dances like that dude from the Chili Peppers. And I thought it was like, I didn't know his name, but it was Anthony Kiedis. Little did I know those two bands had a rivalry because other people pointed out how the dude from Faith No More sang and moved around like Anthony Kiedis. I thought it was just the coming of a new decade. All right, we got some Kelly Jones. We're definitely on a delay, guys. I think I'm about 3 minutes ahead of you guys. Kelly Jones made Batman frightening, which was the point of the costume in the first place. Yeah, like I said, great artist. Great artist. I have zero to say about him. Really dig his long-eared Batman. His art isn't my favorite these days. I've seen him on a few live streams or getting interviewed on YouTube. Really cool guy, Mandrake made everything he drew. Tom Mandrake. Gotcha. Glam metal sucks. I've had to make peace with a lot, and I found some great musicians. A lot of great musicians out there, right? Okay, so nothing a lot to say about this, but if you have not picked up the Sandman Mystery Theater series from the 90s by Matt Wagner, Steven Seagal, Guy Davis, and a whole bunch of other people, this is pulpy stuff set in the 30s with the original Sandman. That is just fantastic. Deals with cults. It's very hardcore pulp stories. That it's fantastic. I kick myself for not collecting it when it came out in the 90s. So I'm on my way to completing the series a little at a time, not in a big rush. But Sandman Mystery Theater, mm, great stuff. Underrated book. It's one of the few books I feel like that if you read it, if you read a story arc, you're not going to be disappointed. Even if you don't decide you don't want to continue reading it, you won't feel like you waste a little bit of money. Great stuff. Now, all of these are upgrades, but I can talk all day long about this, right? So in my early days of actually collecting and stuff, I was reading by, 19, I've talked about the comic books being in the house, the magazines, all that great stuff being in the house when I was a kid. From 4 to about 6, I was reading the stepdad stuff, the uncle stuff, whatever's in the house, heavy metal, everything, curl up on a bed on a rainy Sunday. And then all of a sudden I bought my first comic, and then a little at a time I was buying more things. And even as a little kid at 6, 7, 8 years old, I would buy teen books because I wanted more from I had an allowance, man, that I had to buy my own toy, get the comic books, try to get out to town, get the Star Wars figure, whatever. I mean, we were poor as dirt. If I, whatever I had is what I had, is, you know what I'm saying? So, but I kept hearing about this X-Men and Teen Titans that were the big books. You would read about them in letter columns and stuff. There was, older people who were in the books or whatever. I would hear about them talking about them and stuff, right? And Teen Titans, I didn't become a Teen Titan fan until around the new Teen Titans. What was it, 83, 82, 82 maybe late 81? I don't know. But it was issue, I think, 13 and 14 where they brought in the Doom Patrol. And I became a Doom Patrol nut. So I sort of paid attention to the Titans and stuff, right? So this is Tales of the Teen Titans number 41, leading up to Robin becoming Nightwing, if you will. And this is probably getting close to the last year and a half of new stories in the newsstand title, because they were starting the book over at the direct market, with the Baxter series. This would eventually turn into reprints of the Baxter series and stuff, right? But this copy is not only newsstand, which apparently is supposed to be a big deal, but it is, these books are like, these books were the same place where I got those Freedom Fighter books. They are pristine. They look like they came off the printer yesterday. So all day long, I'll get those, right? And I said there's going to be some Booster Gold talk, right? So I have some of the Baxter series. We're going to save this one for last because they're not in order. But I'm real close to having all the Marvel Wolfman issues of the Baxter series I want. I don't want the entire run, but Marvel Wolfman, I actually got to have a real quick talk with him around 2013 or 14 or something at Heroes Con, and he admits he stayed on Teen Titans way too long. We started getting some of the Doom Patrol roots. That was the purpose of Beast Boy, Changeling, if you will. We had our Doom Patrol roots there. We had Minto turning more and more into Niles, the chief from Doom Patrol, and he brought in some characters and stuff that the hybrid. So I don't want to get bogged down talking about this stuff, but there was a lot of Doom Patrol ties. Robot Man actually popped up again, but it was with this issue number 29. What did I do with it? 28. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff going on. And by the way, this is one of my favorite covers by George Perez ever, number 20. I'm trying not to go off the rails on you guys. I even bought the newsstand reprints of this, right? It was rebuilding the Titans there for half a minute. But issue 29 brought in like Brother Blood and stuff. And I couldn't find issue 29 and 30 growing up as I was reading this book because we didn't have a comic book shop in there. Like I said, I'd grab an issue here and there and stuff, right? So as I pull out this mint copy, which I can't believe that you can still smell the ink. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it smells brand new. So we go through the Brother Blood, getting the Titans on his side, messing with mines, just coming in, and some horrible Robot Man pops up, getting these big 2-page spreads. Now, George Perez was not on the book by this time. I'm not going to go off and say what was going on. It ties into Wonder Woman and Crisis on Heaven Earth. But anyway, at the end of it, the Titans need help. And look who they end up getting for help. Freaking Booster Gold wormed his way into my Teen Titans back when he still wore the cape. Ugh. All right. Insane. All right. That character just sets me off so freaking bad. First, he wormed his way into my Rip Hunter. Then he worms his way into my Commandy. And then he worms his way into my Titans. It just never ends. It's like that book had been sitting there for 33 years just waiting to ambush me and spring a trap. Oh, geez. All right, let's check this out. Oh, Panther. Okay. Anthony wishes he was Mike Patton. See, I can't get into this argument because I like them both. But Mike Patton looks like the guy who I could probably hang with more if I had, back in the day. Panther is an underrated character. Okay. Don't want to get off. We got a few more comics to get through. Okay. The hybrid crossed over to Blue Beetle. I think they definitely popped up, and you're probably right, Gray Man. No problem. I'll take your word on it. Not a problem. Definitely. I'm sitting here. What happened was I was trying to run through my Blue Beetle comics, and I may have it, and I didn't put it together. Booster Gold to the rescue. That should have been the 7th sign, Tim. Absolutely. A cape. I don't recall there being a cape. There was a cape. There was indeed a cape. That's what I mean. And when you find out the reasoning for the cape and how he got rid of the cape, it's even lame. Like everything about the character. Oh, nothing's simple with it. Nothing's simple and normal and cool. And there's nothing about that character. I mean, Booster Gold should be a freaking villain. It's time. All right. So we're at the end, getting close to the end of the stack, people, right? Now, again, I had to get these because some of these were in pristine condition. This is 0 Hour number 0. Okay. This was flat out, this was a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earth, but they called it 0 Hour Crisis in Time because they were saying that the universes were fixed, but the 5th dimension of time was not. And this was their reasoning to give everybody a 0 issue, and it was a soft reboot, even though it was like highly announced. First, they made one Earth and no more multiverse, and then they did one timeline and got rid of the other timelines, and because they messed up Hawkman so bad, and they continued to mess up Hawkman so bad. But what I like about this is they counted down. The book started with issue 5, and it counted down to 0, and it was weekly. It had all kinds of crossovers, and then when the book was over with, you get this double, on both sides, this timeline, so you can understand what they did. And there's been things about this that they turned around and undid, if you will. Mark Waid and Barry Kitson did a 12-issue miniseries that ran all over me. Justice League Year 1, and they were still trying to do the thing from Crisis where they replaced Wonder Woman in the Justice League as a founding member with like Black Canary or something. I don't know. It was a mess. And then I got this because even though we were getting close to the end of the 80s and people who were there were like dying, the 80s were cool. They had their time, but it was getting just something new. There was some Carl Potts. This has to be a Carl Potts cover. I want to look it up. But every now and then you would get a Doctor Strange cover or this kind of cover, and you just look at it, man, and that just nostalgically harkens back to that era for me. New Mutants number 63. They had a huge run of New Mutants I almost bought. And then I was like, do you really need these, Tim? You've been there. You were there before. But I love these covers. There's times where I wish I could go through my collection, find that kind of stuff, and just frame them and post them up everywhere so I can just look at them. Okay, and then we got Marvel Team Up number 31. Could not pass this up for $1. This is from 1974. Marvel Team Up number 31. I want to say Gil Kane is in this. Probably Jim Mooney. I don't know. But, when I find something that old in this great a condition, whoever had this, I can honestly say just by looking at it, there's no chipping on it, no bends. However, this thing has stayed. I know we want to do the numbers, You know what I mean? I like to say this is a solid 9.0, but I'm not going to, I don't know. I don't know. But this is a very, very fine condition book. If it wasn't for just a little bit of fading, it would be mint. Okay. There you go. That was just for you, Gorvidal. We'll go with a solid 8.9.53333.000 on it. Yes. It's all subjective. Now, these books we're not going to spend a lot of time on because these were impulse buys. Either I avoided them when they came out in the 90s because I was like, nobody's going to remember this garbage. And then two of the books solely for the art because I ended up looking at them later, right? So let's just get this out of the way. I'm not even going to pull it out of the bag, but Marvel Onslaught, right? I hear they went back to the Heroes Reborn era there for a little while at Marvel. And it was such a huge hit that we're still talking about it. That's sarcasm. You know, I think that was an event a couple months ago. I don't know. Now, this book really, this is what bothered me. This is what bothered me, man. It's one thing to kind of be into the Vertigo books when they were coming out. And I don't even know if they were calling them Vertigo at the time. And I totally, it was in my early 20s and stuff. I'd already been doing the Swamp Thing with Alan Moore. I'd already been reading some of the darker books, and they hadn't really had a Vertigo brand. And then it came, and Sandman took off with Seasons of the Mist. And I still say that, okay. But anyway, but you had these artists coming over from England and things that were working on the Sandman books or the Death miniseries. They were making a name at Vertigo, and then they would pop over at Marvel, and they would be doing straight superhero books, and it just didn't work for me. You know what I mean? So I've forgiven. I've gotten this because Chris Bachalo ended up doing Spider-Man X books left and right, whatever and stuff. But Generation X #1. And this also had a huge thing going on over at Image as I'm sitting here thinking about this. Image was about to have a book come out called Generation X, and Marvel went after him. And I always felt like that this book came out just to screw with Image because they did it with they did it with Defiant Comics and oh man, what was that animal? There was 2-3 books that had come out where Marvel just did it so they could say that they published it right and keep other people from doing their books. So Generation X over at Image turned into Gen 13, and they did Generation X. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I still think a lot of these characters are forgettable. Maybe people have great memories of this book, but Mark Buckingham and Chris Bachalo has some fantastic art in here. I loved what Bachalo did with Shade in the Death miniseries and things. So yeah, I got this just kind of for a reference to the art after that. But yeah, a lot of taint of this book for me, and I do mean taint, not the body part taint. Okay, I don't want to get that mean. And then Timothy Zahn did this Star-Lord series. I don't know if it was a 1-shot, 2-shot, 3-shot, but it has this colored pencil feel with the art that I really appreciate. It really does take me back to the 70s with some of the stuff I saw in heavy metal, even though it's still straight superhero comics, sci-fi, if you will, right? Double dip there with Cloak and Dagger. I had the, if you follow me on Instagram, and I don't know if I put it in a video or not or yet, but I found the omnibus for Inferno, X-Men Inferno, the huge crossover with the X books in the late 80s, the third one that they did. And I was looking on the back of it, and there's like 3 or 4 issues I have to completing everything that had anything to do with Inferno. I ended up double dipping with this one. Not a biggie. And then we get to this book, right? This is a book I'm slowly, it's not so much warming up to, it's just that the hype has finally died down. I've been finding this series. I probably have at least half the series by now that I found for $1 or less a piece of the issues. And I totally get why people think it's cool, why they like them. But where this was a celebrated book, and I think there's over 400 issues thanks to so many variant covers. I can actually look this up. If I had my phone downstairs, I would look it up and tell you. But the series ran for 50 issues, and I think there's close to like 400 issues thanks to the variant covers that this thing was so successful. But when I read it, I'm like, this was the caliber of comics that hit every month in the late 80s, if not the mid 80s. Like, to me, this is just a book I would have pulled off the stands with Swamp Thing, with Avengers, with this, with that. And that just kind of tells you in my mind how people are, the way I look at it, I feel bad for people that's gotten into comics the last 10 years, if I had to put a number on it, because I feel like they're hungry. They're hungry for something new. They're thirsty. They're crawling through the desert and they're thirsty. And they don't know the difference between a cup of water and a cup of sand. You know what I mean? And this was finally a real cup of water they got. But of course, it's Immortal Hulk. All right. Issues number 10. I feel like this series, I think it was number 7. I feel like now that I've read some of the issues and things, I feel like this book really took off story-wise around issue 7. The cover has all the body parts of the Hulk in jars. His heart's in a jar, his liver's in a jar. And that's where it really took the horror, the real horror turn. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's people who are more into the series than I. Then issue 29 with a Marvel X variant cover. I was very happy to find this because this is based off of Alex Ross's Earth X designs for Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And I was like, oh, wow, they really are pulling everything in from the Hulk. But yeah, I totally get why people love this series. I read issue 50, the last issue, and was a little bit underwhelmed, but maybe it'll have more impact if I ever sit down and read 1 through 49 before I get into it. And then we go back to one of the greatest Hulk writers that I think has ever been, is Greg Pak, going back there with Hulk's son there, you know, the all new savage She-Hulk with red hair, you know. So yeah, all kinds of stuff going on, little juggernaut action there. And then, like I said, born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, started becoming an adult in the 90s. And I had never done anything like this before, and probably have never done anything since. But when I was 20, I was living with somebody, and we just scraped enough money up to go ahead and get cable in our little apartment. Young, dumb, happy, whatever, you know what I mean? And then this show came on, and this show clicked with me. First, it was Mystery Science Theater. I finally got to watch, you know, because we got the real cable where I wasn't living where I grew up. And then I turn around and this show X-Files comes on a Friday night. And I'm like, oh boy, yeah, Fridays are going to be lit now, you know. And they canceled it after like 6 episodes. And somehow I found the address to a local station across the Virginia state line going into Kentucky. And I wrote them a letter saying, bring it back. A letter. This is 1993, guys. Okay. It's how it was done. And I feel like in a small way, I had a little something there. I have no delusions of grandeur on it, but you know, at least they counted the envelope if they didn't read the letter. Yeah, because I put X-Files on the back of the envelope. I decorated the back of the envelope so it would stick out in my mind, right? With a Sharpie. Yeah, so anyway, but it was X-Files. And I never read Topps, Jim Salicrup run Topps comics, if you will. Not only were they putting out Kirby stuff and characters and all these books, they were putting out a licensed X-Files book. So I'd heard that the X-Files book wasn't that good. And actually, if I ran into the next room, if I remember right, I had the TV guide that's supposed to be worth a little bit of money because it has the first X-Files comic in it, a TV guide. I have that here somewhere, right? And I think it's a yellow covered one with a Star Trek character on the front of it. I can't think who the character is. I also have Rolling Stone. I still have my Rolling Stones issues of where the X-Files made the cover of it. And somewhere I have it framed of Gillian Anderson doing a throwback 50s look in a beat up red dress with the creature from the Black Lagoon behind her and stuff, right? I was all about the X-Files. Sadly, though, even though I have a couple seasons on DVD, I have access to them streaming. What I would do is on Friday nights, I would record them because I would be working second shift or something, right? Is that what they call it? Anyway, and then it got moved to Sunday nights, and that really messed me up. I'm still not over them moving X-Files from Friday to a Sunday night, but I would record them and we would watch them over and over. I even still have some VHS tapes with a spinoff called Pure Luck. If you really wanted to delve into it, a lot of people think the Lone Gunman was the only spinoff. They had a spinoff called Pure Luck, but anyway, it didn't last long. But anyway, we'd watch those VHS tapes over and over for years before we got the season sets on VHS and stuff. So an odd thing happens, much like comics. If I start watching an episode of X-Files, either the plot comes rushing back to me or I actually remember parts of the dialogue. And just to let you know that I live, you know, a few hours away from a place called Roanoke, Virginia. It's popped up in comic books too. Just let you know, Strike Force Moratorium and things like that. But Roanoke, Virginia, they actually were going to, they have an episode about a demon, if you will, demons and devils or something that takes place in Roanoke. And Roanoke has this star, this gigantic star. It's just a star that lights up at night, shines down over the city and stuff. X-Files, the people who are doing X-Files, Fox wanted them to turn off the Roanoke star so they could shoot the freaking episode there with Bruce Campbell. And Roanoke refused to do it, so they ended up shooting the episode elsewhere and just said it was in Roanoke. Man, Bruce Campbell could have been in Roanoke with an X-Files episode. You know, that still runs all over me, you know. But, you know, they also have an episode of Criminal Minds that takes place in Bristol, Virginia / Tennessee. And when I was watching the episode, I'm like, they're nowhere near Bristol. You know, I'm like, amazing. TV lies to us. Oh, Rob Rippett's here. What's up, brother? What's up? Everyone knows that Triumph formed the Justice League. Oh, you know it. You know it. Big. But I like to think that Triumph is actually what the Tick looks like if he takes off his mask. And I don't think it's a mask. If you read the Tick, that's probably his body. Yeah, Booster Gold in a cape. Yep. And now the last issue that I do believe we're going to show, because I got other things to move on to today, guys. I've had a good time here. But I've rebagged this, so it's not a very fine copy. It's still kind of cool, man. But growing up, Charlton comics were all over the house. Fighting Army, fighting Navy. My personal favorite, Surfing Wheels. Okay, by the time we got to the 70s and stuff, didn't really get to see any of that Ditko stuff. A bunch of horror books, but I now have quite a, I probably have a long box full of Charlton comics at least and stuff. But every now and then I would find something. A couple years ago, I found a Neil Adams Charlton magazine of the Bionic Man, and now to go with that set, I have the #1 of the Bionic Woman. Okay. It's Jamie. Look, it's her. It's the Bionic Woman. No. But I saw this and I'm like, oh, I have to get that. You know, so yeah, I have to get that. So now I have the Bionic Man magazine from Charlton, and I have the #1 of the Bionic Woman from Charlton. And I still laugh of the stories I've heard over the years. And I've heard there's somewhere on YouTube is a documentary or something that somebody has put together about Charlton comics. I've never really looked it up. But Charlton Comics is famous for having a printing press that was shared to make cereal boxes. And supposedly there was some mafia ties to Charlton Comics for years and stuff, right? I mean, there used to be a big three: National Periodic, Timely, I think, Atlas. Here I am going blank. Harvey and Charlton were in there, you know, like, you know, Dell, Gold Key. Totally went off the rails on that one and stuff, right? But it's like, yeah, I've been doing this for over an hour and a half, so I'm kind of spent. So anyway, I've just loved the fact that I found the Bionic Woman. You know, that's so cool. Little thing from my childhood. Oh man, those reruns of the Bionic Man and Bionic Woman. I even watched I think it was NBC or something, had a reunion movie where we got to see that their kids were also bionic. So go figure. But anyway, the world of bionics, the wave of the future, Bigfoot, giant robot Bigfoots, and yeah, kids that are also bionic. So anyway, I just remember she played a lot of tennis when I ended up watching the show. Maybe I was watching the same rerun over and over. So anyway, guys, be cool, be excellent to each other. Thanks for popping in here. Thanks for everybody that popped in there. Like, say, subscribe, save, and maybe I can get this room together and do a few other things. I would like to talk about the beginning of this to bookend this whole show here. I would love to do a video where I do a little bit of a rant about what's going on online, because it's not transferring over to the real world from what I'm seeing and stuff. I would love to mention a few conversations I've had of people who had no idea some of the stuff that's going on online and why some of these books are supposedly worth so much money. But I don't know. You let me know if that's too negative or anything. You know what I mean? Like, I think I could control myself. It's not like I'm going to be talking about Booster Gold. It won't be the same reaction. So guys, be excellent, be cool, and take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your weekend or what's left of it.